Hey everybody, it's Christine Pedersen here, and we're going to talk road trips or summer travel in general, and some of the things that are really important to remember when everyone is stretched a little bit thin and pushed outside of their comfort zones. So, while travel is really wonderful and we create new memories and we get to explore and adventure together, the part of travel that is difficult for many of us is that for parents, we're doing extra work. So, everything from providing meals to our kids to setting up their sleep space every day in a new place, as some of us are doing, and making sure that we all get our needs met throughout the day can be really hard. We also know that kids oftentimes struggle with transitions and that having the security of knowing where I'm going to be, what I'm going to be doing, how I'm going to be supported in my day-to-day life is actually a really important question that kids are asking themselves all the time. Granted, they are not asking these questions consciously. They're asking them through boundary testing and behaviors that we see that we may not love. So I knew going into this that those behaviors were going to increase. And I really, especially on the part of the trip where I was alone, so I packed up my kiddos and we got to the airport at 4:30 in the morning a week ago, Monday. I knew that I would have to be really, really patient for my kids and that sometimes my own basic needs would need to come second and that I would have to work really hard to make sure that my self-care was in place so that I could A, be patient and B, take care of myself, calm my own nervous system when I needed to and when I had the opportunity. It was not easy. And I will tell you that one of the things that really hit me over and over again was what a good job most parents do and how many resources are available for us when it comes to helping our kids feel physically healthy and safe. And I think you'll all identify whether it's physical education or education about stranger dangers, fire drill protocols, all of the things that we do to help our kids feel physically safe and held are in place. There are lots of manuals and brochures and classes and volunteer organizations that will come and talk to parent groups and your students' schools about how to protect and keep them safe physically. And I realized that what I really would have loved as a parent, an early parent, is to have more resources on how to keep kids emotionally healthy and safe. And there were things that kept coming up for me on this trip over and over again that I realized I am having to work really hard to provide these for my kids. I'm having to remind myself that these are basic and necessary emotional health and safety tools and strategies that I am using, and I have to use them every day, sometimes dozens of times each day, in order to help my children calm down, be more cooperative, and more responsible. So let's talk about some examples, and then I'll actually give you some examples from our trip of what kinds of things we bumped up against regularly. And when I'm talking about emotional safety, I am meaning that boundaries are respected. So I trust and know that my child is going to listen to their body and I'm going to listen to mine, and vice versa. I have a list here too. Feelings are validated. So we honor however people are feeling, we empathize with that, and we try to use compassion when addressing how people are feeling. And we also have a safe space so that kids can bring up things that are difficult for them before it blows up in really negative behaviors. We also might even have parents who are learning to think ahead or think deeper. And this is one of the things that I love to teach parents in my mindful parenting class, the techniques for and the questions for how to get to the root of the problems of these little behaviors that we might see adding up. They're coming from something much bigger that's underground. Another aspect of emotional safety is focusing on making a repair when some unwanted behaviors happen, either from kids or adults, instead of punishment. So, this is a shame free zone. Emotional safety is passive aggression free, it's manipulation free, and it is focused on repair instead of punishment. So we're not using fear to change future behaviors. We're actually modeling how to apologize, how to notice what's going on, what we need and what we want, and then how to ask for that in the future. So a repair is all about getting to the bottom of what has just occurred that was unhelpful, and then creating some strategies for what we can do in the future the next time this comes up. Let's see. Failures and mistakes are encouraged. This has been a huge gift from my partnership. My husband is an engineer where failures and mistakes are part of his job. And he really takes that into his relationships. When we met early on, he said, you know what? I need somebody who's really durable. I need someone who can call me out on my failures and my mistakes and help me learn and grow. I am not going to promise you that I'll never make mistakes. In fact, that's how my brain learns, by crossing a line and then getting called out and learning how to problem solve and communicate in a really healthy way. We use nonviolent communication in our home, and this makes that repair process so much easier. So when something happens, if it's either my husband or my kiddos crossing a line or not respecting my boundaries or doing something that is unhelpful or harmful, I can call them out in a really safe and kind way and ask, how can we get back on track? How can we work as a team? How can we help each other here? Instead of accusing and shaming. So that list again, emotional health and safety. So we're not talking about physical health and safety. We're talking about emotional health and safety. My kids are really great at putting on their seatbelts, wearing their helmets, knowing fire evacuation routes, and all sorts of stranger danger things. They're great at those. I don't need to worry about their physical health and safety. I am very focused on their emotional health and safety, because that is what is going to help them move forward into the world and have healing relationships with other people and with the planet. So we validate feelings with empathy and compassion in this family. We know that it's okay to have boundaries and to bring up difficult topics before they turn into unwanted behaviors. And we also focus on repairs. So we don't use shame, manipulation, passive aggression, or punishment to change behavior in the future. We talk about it and we problem solve. Failure and mistakes are encouraged. Let me give an example from our road trip. Bedtimes were always really hard. So my kids were overtired. We'd been in a car all day long. They were overstimulated meeting and seeing new people. They never wanted to stop playing, never once. So going into bedtimes was really difficult. When I was alone, I elicited my family help. So I asked my niece if she or my aunt, if they could read with one child while I got the other child into PJs and their teeth brushed. And then we swapped. And that helped me so much to just stay focused on one kiddo. It also helped that kiddo stay focused on the task. So when they were both together, it was like watching squirrels in the tree. And it was really hard to get them to listen to my words and actually put the toothpaste on the toothbrush. So I thought ahead, knowing that I would be impatient, that my kids would be overtired and squirrely. I thought ahead to how I could elicit support from the people around me. And honestly, they loved reading to my kids. So it was like a double whammy, or having my kids read to them. When my husband joined us on the next leg of the trip, I was able to tap out if I couldn't handle both kids and he was doing something else or getting something else ready for the next day. I knew that if I got impatient, I could say, hey, I need you to tuck in and sing songs tonight while I take deep calming breaths and do some yoga on the porch. So bedtimes, I just knew going into that I would need support, and I set myself up for that. It took 1 or 2 nights on the trip for me to realize like, oh, this is not a one-person job, and I am super triggered, right? By my own exhaustion, my own overstimulation, my own feeling like I was failing getting my kids to bed late every day, right? So set yourself up with strategies so that you can be flexible and patient with yourself and with your kids, even if that's just a reminder. The other interesting thing that we bumped up against a lot, because we had many hours in the car each day, was irritating behaviors. So when a child is making a repetitive noise or a repetitive action, like kicking the chair in front of them or flicking trash or singing. I have one daughter who just always has a song. And those things were easy to handle the first couple of times, but after a while, it got really irritating for one or all members of the car. We learned that waiting too long to bring up the difficult subject, that this habit was getting irritating, didn't work, because that person would blow up. Like my 8-year-old would ask my 6-year-old, like, can you stop singing that song? It's so annoying. And then, of course, my 6-year-old would be like, oh, yeah? And keep going at a louder volume. And then, of course, there was like screaming and pushing and things happening as they tried to control each other. So what I realized was that it was really, really important for us to use our words very early on and bring up a difficult subject, even if we were afraid about how the other person would respond. And we also learned to ask questions. And I also learned to notice irritating behaviors and ask questions about the whole car. Like, how's everybody feeling about that repetitive noise? How's everybody feeling about that song? Should we turn on the radio and all sing together? Should we have some silent time? Should we listen to a podcast? Should we put our headphones on and listen to music? So that I could make suggestions. But I also learned to help kiddos make a repair. So after we had a blow up, we pointed out, hey, it's totally normal to feel irritated when we're all stuck in a car together, for one. And it's also possible that that irritating behavior and that irritating noise is coming from a need that is not being met. Maybe you're hungry. Maybe you're frustrated by something someone else in the car did. Maybe there's something you're wanting to do that mom told you no, you couldn't yet. So we started talking a little bit about what the cause of the irritating, annoying behavior might have been, and then also ways to address that were kind. And by the end of the trip, it was really helpful for me to understand that there were 2 aspects of these behaviors that were unhelpful and how to address them. Did it stop the behaviors completely? No, right? We still irritated each other in the car on the way home. That's just part of being a family. And we did a much better job of asking ourselves, how can we support someone who is pushing buttons or sort of testing? And also, how can we get our needs met in that moment? How can we help them get their needs met? How can we get our own needs met? So it was more about problem solving than about just getting that behavior to stop. That would be like putting a Band-Aid over something, right? But what I really want to understand is how to get to the root of the problem, not just slap a Band-Aid over it so we don't have to see it or hear it. I'm really curious about what you notice when you're traveling with kiddos, or even just in your day-to-day summer life, about the difference between physical and emotional health and safety. How are you working to provide emotional health and safety for your kiddos at this point? Share some ideas in the comments. and ask any questions that you might have about upcoming travel or experiences where you think it might be really helpful to get some ideas of how to prepare or how to preempt some of the challenges that are coming up for you. Thank you for joining me today. I always love taking real life experiences and using them as lessons. Again, our challenges, our failures, our mistakes are how we learn. And I'm going to model that for you.